Pay me, pay me, pay me my silver now. Pay me or go to jail. Pay me my silver now.
Good morning, Bix Weir, roadtoruta.com with your morning horn of Z's, your sip of chaga coffee. A new person had asked, what's a horn of Z's? A horn of Z's is a cup of coffee up in Boonville, California, around that area, Anderson Valley area of California, where my dad has his vineyard. They invented their own language called Boontling, Boontling. And it's like one of the only original United States languages, or the first one at least, but it's an original language. And they invented it so that they can gossip in the fields while they're working, because their kids were working right next to them, and they had to invent new words, and it just flowed into a language. Anyway, just a little, I don't know why I added it. I said it one day and people were laughing and going, what's a horn of Z's? It's a sip of coffee or a cup of coffee. Horn meaning cup, Z's meaning coffee. There used to be a restaurant in Boonville called Horn of Z's. It has since gone out of business and given way to all the vineyards in that area. Amazing Pinot Noir is being grown in the Anderson Valley, if you didn't know it. Go check it out. Anyway, there's your Horn of Z's. Let's talk about the world falling apart now. Now that we're done playing around with language, let's talk about the world falling apart. I posted last night a private road video called The End Game is Here, and now here's how it will unfold. And I discussed what I think is going to happen and what's going to go down, but we will see. We will see. That's on the private road at the Road to Ruta. This is happening as we speak. On one level, this is, they're arresting Trump for being Trump. On one level, it's so outrageous that your mind can't get around it. And on another level, your mind shouldn't be able to get around any of the bullshit that's going on anymore. Or actually, here's one way to think about it. What if all this crap was going on behind the scenes anyway, and we just didn't see it? We didn't understand it. We were held in the dark. We were not awake. And I'm afraid that's what's been going on probably since the invention of time, definitely since the invention of computers. As I've said, and I've written songs about this, if you don't have free markets, you don't have freedom. Markets will be the arbiter of debate, discussion, right decisions, wrong decisions. If you bail everybody out, if you rig every market, if you use your derivative computer programs that were invented in the 1960s by Alan Greenspan and implemented in the 70s, and all the banks got them under their fingernails, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. You can control any market, but you can't control freedom. Freedom goes away when you rig markets. This is the only big thing I had against Trump. The big thing that he should have been arrested for is rigging markets. Now, I get why he did it. We had to take out all these guys, and it had to be done because of this, and this. I get that. Truth and honesty will always win. This is probably the greatest thing for Trump if the fake system holds together and we continue down the fake road. I don't think Mr. Trump and the people behind Mr. Trump really want to do that anymore. Let's just call a spade, put all the cards on the table and say, okay, who was right and who was wrong, and then we can get back to free markets. But in the meanwhile, we're going to have to destroy everything, unbacked fiat currency, all the derivatives are going to go, and they're going to go fast. So I hope you have bought a lovely silver-plated lawn chair. You're sitting on the sidelines with your silver stack here, your crypto stack here, a little bit of cash, a little bit of coinage, because that's made by the U.S. Mint and not the Federal Reserve, and you're just watching this crazy show. And clearly, this is one of the craziest things to happen. And you'd never think it would happen in America. But I do know a lot of lefties here in California who are just, oh yeah, we finally got him. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? This is the craziest thing I've ever seen. But it was always crazy. It was always going on behind the scenes. We need truth and honesty in the United States of America, not this bullshit. Anyway, I do think it's coming to head this year. So get your silver in your own possession. Clearly, silver is on a roll. You look at a $4 gain in the last couple of days. It's oh my God, silver's running crazy. We are still less than 50% of its all-time high in 1980. How many dollar bills have been created? How much debt has been created? How many derivatives have been created since 1980? Silver should be $5,000 an ounce, not $24 an ounce, and it will go there. If you want to restore freedom in the United States, you restore free markets. And you end this bullshit derivative game. 500 million ounces traded every day on this crazy thing called the COMEX. Futures and options. Futures and options controlled by Vincent Viola of Virtu Financial and the big banks. Here, Vinny, you got the computer programs. You run this game for us. Here's the highs and here's the lows. Let's program it out for 3 years from right now. 2011, JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon placed his guy, Bill Daley of the Chicago Daily Crime family, as Barack Obama's chief of staff for one reason. They were going to run the price of silver to $20 to $50, getting in all the weak hands and create an artificial bear market. And they needed someone holding Barack Obama's hand and telling him what to do. And that's exactly what happened. And then Bill Daley left exactly 1 year later, and the price was back at $20. They did what they came out to do, create an artificial bear market in silver. That is bullshit. That is not freedom. If you rig markets, you cannot expect freedom. And Trump, I know you're not the guy. You did what you were told, and you were really good at it. But we don't need that anymore, I don't think. I don't think we need Trump in the future. What we need is truth and honesty in the future. Just everybody lay your cards down. It's time. This has gotten so ridiculous. Anyway, and if the cards are laid down, of course, silver will be $5,000, $10,000 an ounce, up there with gold, $5,000, $10,000 an ounce. Gold and silver are going 1-to-1. Why? They're going to go beyond 1-to-1. It might even get to 80-to-1, 80 ounces of gold to buy 1 ounce of silver. Why? We don't need gold. Gold is a store of value. Excellent. So silver. There's 6 billion ounces of gold out there, so they say. So Jeffrey Christian will tell you. There's 6 billion ounces of silver out there, of investable silver. So Jeffrey Christian will tell you. That's a 1-to-1 ratio. But here's the thing. Every ounce of gold that gets pulled out of the ground gets stuck back in a vault in the ground, as Warren Buffett loves to say. Every ounce of silver that gets pulled out of the ground, 60% of it gets consumed, is gone. You don't even know where it goes. It's gone in industrial applications. 60%. We are running a massive silver deficit, meaning we're using up more silver than we're pulling out of the ground or getting in recycling. Massive. And it has no end in sight. No end in sight. India imported 300 million ounces of silver last year, and that's nowhere to be seen in the reporting. You look at the Silver Institute, who does the annual breakdown of supply and demand. It's complete bullshit. Where's the 300 million ounces of silver that India imported? It's all a lie. Everything is a lie. The biggest lie is price. Price is the biggest lie. And if we want to be a free country, if we want to be a free nation, if we want to be a free world, we got to end this bullshit. Everybody knows it. Everybody's preparing. And you better be prepared. The rich are absolutely preparing. Andy Schectman's never been busier. Yes, billionaires are starting to say, oh my God, I got to get some gold. And as soon as they figure out gold, they're like, oh, Jesus. What about silver? I better get some silver before there is no silver. It becomes what Cliff High calls UNOBTAINIUM. UNOBTAINIUM is the best word ever for silver. You will not be able to get silver at any price for a while. $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 an ounce. You will start thinking about, okay, what can I melt down in my house? I've got my aunt's silverware. I've got my coffee and tea set in my silverware collection that I haven't polished in a while, but I think it's still silver under that black varnish. That's the world we're headed into. But there's not all that much recyclable silver that will come back into the market. There's just not enough. First of all, people are very, very hesitant to get rid of their silver. Once they know when the price is going up, people love to chase shiny objects. Look at cryptos. Any crypto starts to run, everybody sells every crypto and runs to that crypto. That's why Binance has been so adept at rigging markets. The largest crypto exchange in the world. They'll run up some crazy crypto. Everybody will run into it, sell their other ones. Then Binance dumps it and for their own account, and they buy the one that got dumped, and they do the opposite, rinse and repeat. It is crazy. The world is crazy. Anyway, and just to reiterate the craziness and the fact that there is no law in the United States of America, the U.S. Mint is still only making 900,000 Silver Eagles a month. This is Janet Yellen. Janet Yellen at her finest. Yes, the same Janet Yellen that currently cannot figure out whether or not to bail out the bank's uninsured depositors or not. She can't say she's doing that because that would be illegal, but she can do it if it causes a systemic risk, which I talk about a lot in the private road discussion. Here she is, as a matter of fact. Let's listen to what she said last week, and this is just insanity. This is truly insanity. First, here's Tuesday.
That means potentially intervening if a smaller bank experiences the kinds of difficulties we've seen that pose the risk of contagion.
Okay, so potentially intervening if a smaller bank has problems. So they did the big bank. Now, if a smaller bank has problems, we potentially could intervene. That's Tuesday.
And have not considered or discussed anything having to do with blanket insurance or guarantees of deposit.
We have not on Wednesday. We have not discussed anything related to blanket insurance for unsecured deposit. Nothing. We haven't discussed it. No, it hasn't even been brought up. Are you kidding? That's ridiculous. That's Wednesday. Here's Thursday.
Took actions to protect all depositors at the two failed institutions, and they are tools we could use again.
You can't make this up. What is it? Are all deposits covered not by FDIC? The FDIC doesn't have the money. The FDIC would have to go to Congress. Congress will never agree on something like that. So the only entity left that has the ability to bail out the world for any amount of money, 2.5 quadrillion in derivatives can be clicked with a mouse at the Fed. The Fed can do it, whether they have the legal authority, according to Janet Yellen. If it provides a systemic risk to the system, they have the legal authority to bail out. Well, everything is a systemic risk. If your local Joe Farmer's bank goes down tomorrow, there's $5 in uninsured deposits. There's $10 in insured deposits and $5 in uninsured deposits. If she doesn't bail out the $5 in uninsured deposit, every human being on the planet will look at their bank and say, oh my God. There is a chance that uninsured deposits may not be covered by the FDIC, or not even the FDIC, by the Fed. It's not the FDIC, it's the Fed. If there is a chance, what do? You go in and you get your money out in a fractional reserve system where banks are levered 10, 20, 30 to 1. In the case of Credit Suisse, 100 to 1. As soon as people draw money out of the system, and we're seeing it now, poof, that bank is done. When everybody does it, poof, the system is done. There's no checking account. There's no savings account. There's no 401k. There's no stock market, bond market, commodity market, crypto market. There's nothing. It's over. That's game over. So what is Janet Yellen going to do? She only has one choice. Bail out everybody and everything.
Certainly, we would be prepared to take additional actions if warranted.
Fabulous.
Sure. Additional actions means everything. It's going to go well beyond banks, my friends. You can't have anybody fail anymore. That's how fragile the system is. They are preparing for hedge funds to go down, and then they're going to bail them out because they're systemic. Systemic risks. Remember that. Systemic. They're going to call everything systemic. So what does it mean? Alan Greenspan summed it up long ago when he said, the risk of default is zero. The risk of default is zero because the Fed can create as much money as the computers can handle, which is infinity money. That's what Ruta wrote in the sand. But what he said is, it doesn't guarantee the purchasing power of that money. When the Fed bails out everything and everybody, because they're not allowed to pick and choose, this is equity amongst everybody. Every state, every local government can be bailed out. The federal government will be bailed out. The Fed will bail out every systemic country in the world. This is the end game. Money to infinity. How long will it take? I don't think it'll take very long. So you better have your assets in your own possession, because at some point, Greenspan's prediction will come true that the purchasing power of the bailout money will be zero. Doesn't even matter anymore. And it's coming fast, by the way. Now we're getting into the business cycle. Oh, the business cycle. Oh, yeah, that's right. There's something more important than the banks wobbling. We are into a cycle where we are going to crash beyond belief. And then the Fed will try to paper over everything, electronic blips, everything. ISM manufacturing tumbles to post-COVID lows, employment slumps. We are moving into a point where everything's going to crash, which will not help the banks at all, obviously. Will not help anything at all, obviously. Interest rates will go back to zero very fast in the next 90 days. And then it'll go negative. And then everything will start to smoke and break and crash. And by the way, it already is. UBS to cut workforce by 30% after Credit Suisse takeover. 30%. So they take over a bank and they have to cut employees by 30%. What were those employees doing? Well, let's see. Why did Credit Suisse go down? Derivatives that track bonds at the heart of Credit Suisse's rescue slide. This is just from March 20th. But look at this. Investment Banking Awards for 2020. Investment Bank of the Year for Equity Derivatives. Out of all the banks dealing in derivatives in the world, who won it? Credit Suisse. Yes. The same Credit Suisse that got sold for pennies on the dollar after having, I think it was 1.5 or 1.2 or 1.5 trillion dollar market value. But look at this. That's not all. Investment Bank of the Year for Securitization. Credit Suisse. They double dinged it in 2020. Here's the thing about derivatives. If you write derivatives, that's great. It's like an insurance policy. Insurance companies get all that money up front. Like they say one of the most scammy things in the world is being an earthquake insurance provider in like California, along the California fault. Because you get all that money up front, but you'll never have the money to pay out your insurance claims when the big one goes off. So that's the scam with derivatives. If you're writing a derivative, you get the money up front. And that's why they're all, yeah, we'll invest it. We'll make sure we have enough. But they don't. They screw it up every single time. So in 2020, Credit Suisse is writing massive amounts of derivatives. Massive amounts of derivatives. Why? Why all of a sudden did they turn into number one? Here's why. Blythe Masters, yes, is now the chair of Credit Suisse Holdings, or was, if she's probably gone by now. Blythe Masters, the queen of silver manipulation, the J.P. Morgan champion of credit default swaps from the mid 1990s to 2008 when everything imploded. J.P. Morgan claims they got out of that, but it was Blythe Masters who was the champion of it. She didn't invent it. Other people at J.P. Morgan invented credit default swaps, because what credit default swaps did, supposedly, was provide so much insurance to the customers of J.P. Morgan that they could increase their credit limitless if they could use credit default swaps. No, we have no risk here. Yeah, we lent them $1 billion, but we have $1 billion of credit default swaps, so it's break even. Let's give them another $1 billion. That's the game that she was playing. That was the major reason for the implosion in 2008. And it was all her doing. She was the champion of it. That's why they put her in charge of the ISDA, the derivative regulator of the world. And she got in there and changed little things and made sure that the system would hold together and decided who was going to win and who was going to lose. And then she went to cryptos and was going to do the same thing there. And then all of a sudden she got booted and she disappeared for a while. And she ended up as the chairman of Credit Suisse Holdings. And poof, they implode and disappear. And now Swiss prosecutors investigating UBS takeover of Credit Suisse. Swiss legal authorities say they have launched a probe into possible law breaking by officials, regulators, and executives in the government-brokered rescue of the troubled banking giant Credit Suisse by UBS. The Attorney General's office said Sunday it was looking into last month's emergency acquisition pushed through in secret on Sunday afternoon to head off a global banking crisis and was gathering evidence to identify possible crimes. There's so many crimes with Blythe Masters, it's unbelievable. In light of recent events, the federal prosecutor's office wants to proactively fulfill its mission. Oh my God. Proactively, it's already done. The investigation follows the sale of Credit Suisse for $3.2 billion, a fraction of its $1.4 trillion book value, after a $55 billion central bank loan failed to arrest the bank's plunging share price. So Credit Suisse was worth $1.4 trillion one day, and then it starts to fail as derivatives do. This is a derivative issue. How many derivatives did they have that were being claimed with the Silicon Valley Bank implosion? Or were they involved with FTX? Sam Bankman-Fried and the Democrats? I don't know. Probably. That's how you go from a $1.4 trillion book value. You blink your eyes. Blythe Masters, what are you doing? What the hell are you doing? Poof. Gone. And sold for 3.2. Yes, there's massive amounts of fraud, massive amounts of cover-up. And the only reason UBS bought Credit Suisse is probably they're the other end of these huge derivatives that they're going to lose on. That's why UBS now has to fire 30% of its staff. This is just, it's crazy. You know, I see something crazier. I talked about this. No one was talking about it. Goldman Sachs just jumped ahead of J.P. Morgan as far as derivatives. Why? Because Goldman Sachs is a crazy pseudo bank. I mean, at least J.P. Morgan has about $3 trillion plus in assets. Goldman Sachs doesn't even have close to that. And now Goldman Sachs is the number one derivative holder, $53 trillion. What could go wrong, my friends? But this is the first time, I think, I've been checking, that Goldman Sachs or anybody has taken J.P. Morgan's place in years. I mean, here's the historical rankings. This is what it is right now. 53 for Goldman, and J.P. Morgan is second. Click on any day right here. There you go. J.P. Morgan Chase, 51 to 46. Click on right here. J.P. Morgan, 65 to 26. Wow, what was that? Oh, 2006. Right before that's the Blythe Masters crash. Of course, Blythe was in charge of derivatives back then. This is insane. Let's go to pick a date. 9/30/2004. JP Morgan Chase. Let's go back all the way back as far as we can. This goes to 1995. I don't even think JP Morgan Chase, I think it was JP Morgan and Chase, but there it is. Morgan Guarantee and Trust and JP Morgan Chase, which merged into one. Let's go to 2003. JP Morgan Chase. Yeah, I do think it's a big deal that the latest report, don't forget, they're hiding. The OCC, Office of Comptroller of Currency, who reports this data, is hiding the gold and silver derivatives right now from the people. It's being done by this guy who is in charge of the OCC bank supervision, not the head of the OCC, but he is an ex-JP Morgan guy. You can't make this shit up. I don't know if this is permanent or a one-time deal, but Goldman just jumped ahead of JP Morgan. And I heard JP Morgan just dumped $5 trillion worth of, $5 trillion? 5 trillion. Well, clearly they jumped. Let's see how much they dumped. So they went from, so it's really Goldman that jumped up from 48. JP Morgan was 50.3. And JP Morgan went down a little bit, but it's Goldman Sachs that really jumped up. Why? Why is Goldman adding, $5 trillion in derivatives in the fourth quarter of 2022? What could go wrong, I tell you? Oh, it's crazy. Oh, by the way, as if crimes were being investigated, real crimes. I mean, there's so many crimes in Congress now, and they talk about all this shit, and they don't do anything. I remember Jim Comey saying that he purposefully leaked classified information to the press. He said it in Congress in a hearing, and no one said anything about it because it doesn't matter. They talk, but they don't do anything. Leaks from Bragg's grand jury are a crime. Duh. A grand jury is not allowed. It should have been thrown out long ago, but they're gonna go through the show, right? They're gonna go through the show. It's insane. Anyway, you want to join the Road to Ruta? Go to roadtoruta.com. If you have time, we are actually still, believe it or not, we're still giving away the Ruta Lives coin. I should be hanging on to these because I know how valuable they'll be in the future, but I'm not. I'm giving these away with every subscription to the private road or renewal. So go check it out. This giveaway will end. I think when silver hits $30, it's going to run, and this giveaway's over. I'm going to just hang on to these babies till they hit $10,000 an ounce. Then I'll start selling them again. Anyway, go to roadtoruta.com, click on subscribe today to join the private road, and join in the fun. This is Bix Weir. I'll talk to you later.